Ain't it? Ain't it? 1, 2, 3. Ain't it? 1, 2, 3. um, ain't it? When was it you stopped using the beat track? I think it was. I think I stopped using them when I was about 35. What's up, everybody? It's your man, Uncle T, and I'm excited to welcome you to the first episode of Ain't It. Now, y'all know me as a lover of all things pop culture, from classic movies, music, to video games, and more. But I also have another passion, and that's true crime. But that's not all. We're going to dive deep into all kinds of stories, from the personal to the cultural, the funny to the tragic. And we're going to do it with my unique perspective and sense of humor. Some of you might get it, some of you might not. In this show, I want to take you on a journey through my life, my experiences, both good, bad. I've been through a lot, from poverty and mental health struggles to finding my place in this world. But through it all, I've always had a love for pop culture and storytelling. And that's what I want to share with you. And for future reference, on the finding your place in the world, I know all of you do. Some people feel lost, but it's only a mistake if you don't learn from it. In this first episode, I want to introduce myself and explain what this show is all about. I've been a fan of pop culture for as long as I can remember. It's always been a way for me to escape from the tough realities of life and just enjoy some good old-fashioned entertainment. Growing up, I was a huge fan of the 70s, 80s, and 90s. I love everything from classic rock to hip-hop, metal, and all movies and TV shows. And when it comes to video games, let's just say I was a master of Super Nintendo back in the day. Super Mario 1, 2, 3. Who wants some? Who wants some? But I'm not just living in the past. I'm also a huge fan of the latest and greatest in pop culture. I love me some Resident Evil, Last of Us, Battlefield, mostly espionage or horror themed games. Yes, I love The Walking Dead. I missed the show, and no spoilers. I didn't see the last season, and I'm waiting for that, and I'm gonna catch up on that. On this show, we're going to dive deep into all of it. We'll talk about the hottest new releases and the classic throwbacks. We'll share our favorite moments, debates, and the best movies, TV shows, and video games of all time. And we're going to have some fun too. Always got to have fun. Enjoy what you're doing. Whether we're talking about the latest blockbuster movie or a classic horror flick, a new video game, or an old school arcade classic, I want to share my thoughts and opinions with you. And when we talk about true crime, I want to do it in a way that's both informative and entertaining. So get ready for a wild ride, folks, because we're going to cover it all. From throwbacks to now to your mother's breast. No, I'm just joking. From the weird to the wonderful, the crazy to the cool. We're going to bring it all on a silver platter straight to your plate. And we're going to do it with all my signature style. Really much to say. I was born in Roanoke. Spent most of my life in the Southeast area, growing up in Southwest. Like, my early years, from like when I was like 10 to about 11, maybe 12, lived on Patterson Avenue, which is a street up in Roanoke, Virginia. And then we moved to the Southeast area when I was about 14. And grew up from there. And then as soon as I turned 40, 41, I moved to the Blacksburg area. It was a wild ride, living in my old neighborhood growing up. I mean, it's just like I mean, it's no different than any other poverty-ridden city. I mean, there's drugs. You got your drugs. Alcoholics, homeless shelters, and your typical inner city. You got your good people, and you got your roughnecks. Addicts and stuff like that. I mean, but yeah, it was a very different life growing up, very different than what I ever could imagine. But aren't we all like that? Nobody ever, I mean, whether it's good or bad, nobody ever expect to live their life the way it turns out as they get older. I mean, like people that all of a sudden win the lottery or create something and have their own business, and then they become very wealthy, and they're the type of people that they say, wow, I never expected my life to turn out like this. Well, it's the opposite with people that had a bad experience in life and had a lot of obstacles to overcome, and they also too say, never expected my life to turn out like this. I never dreamed of it. Take the good with the bad. When I was a kid, though, and I was like 9 or 10, I like Motley Crue, Kiss, with makeup, of course. And Wasp, I listened to them, growing up. And then when I got like 14, 15, I started listening to like a lot of 70s music, like Leonard Skinner, AC/DC, a little further back, The Doors, music like that. And then around 15, I met a friend of mine, childhood friend, named Chris. He turned me on to thrash metal. First band being Slayer, and then Pantera, older 80s thrash. When skateboarders were into the thrash music, not the music that, that evolved into ska. Not saying nothing bad about it, but, back when it was, a metalhead tribe, not, what it is today. Now it's, ska music and new metal, and things change, can't I mean, that's what makes everything and everybody so different and unique, and culture so unique, is because times change. We can't stay stagnant in the same era. Things change, and some might like it, some may not. I didn't really embrace it that much once it, which I ain't gonna lie, I was a chubby kid. Skateboards wasn't my thing, but I hung out with friends that rode skateboards. I was a bicycle guy. And, we still hung out and, listened to music, like a band called Violence. They're like thrash, DRI, Dirty Rotten Imbeciles. They was like skateboard thrash, stuff like that. Hang out in parks and, vandalize shit. Typical teenagers. I don't really have one favorite musician. I mean, when it comes to music, it's like a piece of the puzzle. I mean, it's like it's scattered out everywhere. Like my favorite vocalist in alternative grunge is the late Lane Staley. Yeah, rest in peace, definitely. He, was the lead singer of Alice in Chains, which most of y'all guys probably know that. And then when it comes to black metal, my favorite vocalist, guitarist is John Navidit. He was a Swedish black metal vocalist for the band Dissection. He also too passed. He committed suicide. And he was into a lot of crazy stuff. He was one of them right-wingist in the left-hand path. He had a lot of views and stuff. A lot of it I didn't agree with, but I liked his music. He was a great musician. Drummers, as far as drummers go, I like a lot of guitars, so I'm not going to just be too long to delve into the guitars, but there's just so many. The scene is just like overwhelmed with guitars. My favorite drummer, if I would have picked up an instrument, it definitely would have been drums. And my favorite drummer would have to be Slayer's Dave Lombardo. He is an awesome drummer. Very, very, very talented. And one good fun fact about him, he was born in Puerto Rico, and so how he picked up drumming was really good. His family, played music, not professionally. They just played music, but like when they had get-togethers and cookouts, and they'd pull out the bongos and the drums and stuff and play music, and that's where he learned how to play drums. And he said the most difficult time he had with drums was learning how to play Spanish music. And he said, and you would think that playing, fast as Slayer plays, that would be more difficult. It was like when he learned how to play Spanish drums, it was like, boom, everything fell into place. He could play any genre of music because Spanish music, the drumming is just like so ridiculously fast, and you got to stay like in tune. I mean, it is insanely difficult to learn. So, like I said, when he mastered that, all doors just slammed open. And then that's when he got into playing punk music. Then eventually helped his fellow bandmate and comrade Jeff Hanneman, guitarist, and they formed Slayer. At first, they was just going to do like punk music and stuff like that. And then enters Kerry King, their other guitarist. And he's the one that really took him into a thrash and dark turn in music. He's the one that came up with all the Satanism and all that part of it. Jeff Hanneman had two uncles in Vietnam, and his father or his grandfather. I've heard two different versions of this story, both of them being true, but just slightly. First I heard it was his father, then I heard it was his grandfather. They fought in World War II not for the Germans, of course, for the Americans, the army and stuff. So when he was on tour, he liked anything war related, memorabilia. When he was touring other countries, he picked up and brought them home and dressed his house up with it. I mean, he was like really big into war stuff. So that's where like the song Angel of Death, Chemical Warfare. It sounds dark and satanic, but they're actually talking about war. Like the song War Pigs with Black Sabbath. Everybody thinks that they're talking about Satan and glory, but no, they're talking about the tragedies of war. Like there's them saying generals gathered in their masses. I mean, they're meaning like, the generals of the military, the dictators. They're standing tall. They're not glorifying them. They're just telling you a story. That's all they're doing. That's how Jeff Hanneman put it. He's like, we're not glorifying what Mengele did. We don't agree with it. We're just telling you a simple story. And it's horrible. It's a horrific story, but nevertheless, it's a story. So I just really named two of my favorite guitarists. So, drummers, it's always been Dave Lombardo. I like Frost from Satyricon. He's really good too. Let's see, Vinnie Paul from Pantera. I think that's about that part. The obstacles you have to go through. Well, growing up in Southeast Roanoke, is just like any other inner city, when you're living an impoverished life. And, I wore hand-me-downs to school, so I was like ridiculed for that. I was accepted outside of school. I had a couple friends, and then I got older, and then I met like some friends they were my friends, but at the same time they was kind of like bullyish, bullheaded, and so I went through that, and my life really didn't start turning around until after I actually moved out of Southeast, when I moved up where I'm currently at, and it's been a lot better, and I just try to stay to myself, and and meeting my family up here. When I lived in Roanoke and I came to visit, I thought I knew them, but I really didn't. I mean, I knew them, but I didn't. And it was like when I moved up here, it kind of filled in the blanks and stuff. And I think we are tighter now than we ever did when I was coming up visiting. And I think they got to know me a little better and understand me a little better. And so, unfortunately, it comes from self-medicating, like any other person. Any other mentally broken down person turns to substances and alcohol, of course. I mean, when somebody's broken mentally and their spirit's broken, I mean, it's the natural choice. Seeing a therapist, psychiatrist, or anything like that, it's always everybody's last ditch effort to trying to heal themselves. They always go to alcohol or substances first. It's just inevitable. It's always the first to be on somebody's mind. I can't deal with this. I can't do this anymore. I'm gonna have me a drink. I'm gonna have me a drink. I'm gonna have me a toot. I'm gonna smoke me something. Nobody ever really seeks out professional help until, like I said, they're at the end of their rope. Some people get help before it happens. Some people, unfortunately, my heart goes out to the unfortunate that have died from mental health issues. The ones that by the time they got help, it was too late. The ones that accidentally overdosed, or the ones that just done so much drugs, their bodies broke down, they died naturally, in their 30s and 40s. It's very unfortunate. I think mental health is an issue, and I think it's a real live issue that's living, breathing today, and I think there should be more awareness on it. It would help a lot of recovering addicts. It would help broken homes where child abuse is evident. Mental health, man, it really does. It needs a brighter spotlight shined on it. I think it's addressed, but I think it's more neglected than it is being addressed. Because people are like, oh, he'll be all right. We'll just give him some antipsychotics. It should be all right. Just give her some antipsychotics. Come talk to me once a week. Bullshit. Really, the only person that's really been a big influence in my whole life, has been, I want to say my mother, but I know she loved me unconditionally, but at the same time, she just let me do whatever the hell I wanted, didn't really set no rules for me because I was the baby. I know I could come and go as I please. She'd spoil me, buy me anything I wanted. And my dad, he was abusive, of course, alcoholic, and one didn't have enough strict upbringing, and the other one had a different approach to it that wasn't necessarily appropriate for that person, that kid. Abuse, not he was more mental abuser than he was physical, and with the put downs and all that stuff. But the biggest positive influence that I have that came from this family is my brother. He's the only one, that ever gave me advice after advice after advice, and it was really good advice. It was just fucking hard headed, and one of those things. It is what it is. I've always looked up to him. He's always been a big influence on me. My mom and dad set up visitations with him. I think it was my mom who reached out to his adopted mother, Tadia, which is still in our family. She's related to my mother and everything. So, she wasn't an outsider or anything. And so they set up that, and the first time we met him, they let Tadia let mom and dad bring. I was like real little. I barely remember this. I probably wasn't no more than 7, maybe at the most. And so she brought him back to Roanoke, and so they go into Kmart because mom was going going there and buy some stuff and stuff since they. And I think Melissa's the only one that came. I don't think Eddie came. And so they go in there and still had was still in perfume and lipstick and stuff and putting it in pocketbook bags, and they got caught. And so, nevertheless, first time we get to meet them, some tragedy had to happen, and she didn't let us see him for a long time after that. Then we finally, when Eddie became like 19, maybe, I think he was 19, or 20, 21, I can't remember. I got a bad memory. He might have been 22, and he met us in, I think it was Salem. And he came, but they had a little red truck with a camper on it. He came by and hung out with us, and then and then he's been coming to Roanoke. He came to Roanoke and started getting me ever since. I'm glad he did. First tattoo, probably 16, maybe 17. My tattoos, I mean, they're not like gang tattoos or a motorcycle club, tattoos. They just tattoos. I like dragons, I like skulls, I like wizards, and that's what. I've done like a lot of underground work. Well, private contractors and stuff. I've done tree, I've done tile, I've done, construction, done brick. Hardest shit I ever done was concrete. That shit is hard. It is, man. It is physically triple demanding. Done mostly restaurant work. Done, mostly fast food. I like to spend some of my free time. Used to be exercising. I haven't really exercised much here as of recent. I like to do I used to like to do volunteer work, like help give out food and stuff like that. And then for the last, it's been going on longer than this, but the last year and the last couple months, I've been working on podcasts and maybe eventually into some film and TV shows. It's pretty much the only thing important in my life right now. Besides my daughter, who is the apple of my eye. I mean, well, yeah, I love her. She's getting some help that she well deserved needs, and I eventually want to get her involved in a podcast, just me and her. And she's been a huge influence. Friends from my old haunting grounds, Southeast Roanoke. When I pretty much moved where I'm at now, our relationship dissolved. I don't really keep up with none of them anymore. I don't. And just about all my friends that I ever had in Roanoke, I've had a couple solid friends, but they all just grew apart. Some of my favorite entertainment is apocalyptic movies. I like war movies. I like slasher movies. I'd have to say original Night of the Living Dead, 1968, George Romero film. It's probably in black and white. That's probably my favorite. And let's see, I like Friday the 13th. That was real good. I liked Nightmare on Elm Street. Phantasm was a real good movie. Really great 80s throwback. It's really a good movie. And I like that movie Night of the Creeps, Tales from the Crypt, Tales from the Dark Side, Creep Show. Those are some of my favorite TV shows and movies. I like the simplicity games. That's what I like to call them. Simple games. Like my favorite growing up was Donkey Kong Jr., Burger Time, Frogger. Loved Frogger. The game was so addictive. And Dig Dug, that was real good. That's, some of the cabinet arcade games from the 80s. And Ghost and Ghouls. That was a good game. Satanic as fuck, but still a good game. I forgot you could play Mario on the cabinet version arcade. I remember they used to, because I remember going, there used to be this place called Electric City on Williamson Road. It was a old arcade place. It's called Electric City, and used to be this girl, man. I still remember her to this day. She played Mario, and she was really good at it. And of course, you had to, when you died, you had to put a quarter in to continue. Just if you wanted to start where you where you died at. And she had a stack of quarters going all the way across the game. And it was like, if anybody's trying to play this game, not anytime soon. Yeah, and she was way up there. I sat there and watched her, man, for an hour straight, man. I mean, she was killing it. I remember going to see the Misfits back in the day. That was a really cool show. It wasn't with Glenn Danzig. It was with their singer Michael Graves at the time. And it was with the Ramones. That was a really good show. I got to meet Doyle and Wolfgang von Frankenstein, and got to meet him. I mean, that was a pretty cool experience. Was probably 24, maybe 25. If I could meet my younger self, I would slap him in the head. Tell him get his head out of his ass. Life is too short. And let's do it now. So that's a little taste of what's in store for Anna. I hope y'all are as excited as I am to get started. We're going to have some laughs, some tears, and maybe even a little bit of screaming. But most of all, we're going to have fun, and we're going to learn a thing or two along the way. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you on the next episode of Ain't It with your boy Uncle T. And as always, look both ways before crossing the street. Peace.